Coming soon to own on
YouTube and Twitch.
DVD.
It's nothing too crazy now, but today we're gonna be reacting to why Ellie versus Clementine isn't close. I have played the entire Last of Us 1 and 2. I watched the TV shows. I played season 1 of The Walking Dead, but I have seen multiple full playthroughs of all 4 seasons of The Walking Dead. So I know both of these characters. No, I know both of these characters deeply. So I think, me personally, I think Ellie is beating Clementine, but it depends around what age point would they fight at. Because if it's around like the older they got, Ellie became more dominant. But once again, Clementine became more of a survival on her own survivalist versus like somebody who can fight, like who just fights. And also Ellie, it was immune, so she really didn't have to worry. She just had to make sure she didn't get eaten alive, not bitten. It was like she had abilities to get stronger, and she had a better role model, or a longer role model in her life too. Let's go ahead and get straight to it.
Look, Telltale's The Walking Dead, The Last of Us, two of the greatest emotional nukes ever dropped on gaming history. And today, we're doing what nobody wants to admit they've been thinking about since like 2014. Clementine versus Ellie. And don't get it twisted, this isn't like a who would win in a fight type thing, even though we'll talk about that. Spoiler alert, Ellie is dog walking Clementine. Like, straight hands. It's not even close at all. But this video is more about than just hands, you know what I'm saying? It's about who's the better character, better written, better story, better arc, better survival instinct. We're going category by category.
Well, category by category?
Whoever has the most points, that's who wins. So if you came here for a calm, unbiased breakdown, you're in the wrong video. We got gameplay, commentary, emotional trauma, and a whole scoreboard. Let's get into it.
I think survival automatically goes to Clementine because she had to raise a baby. Like, she was raising a baby by herself at 12 years old.
Let's get the obvious out of the way. In a one-on-one fight, Ellie is folding Clementine. Like,
Absolutely.
bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Clem with all of my heart. But if they were ever to scrap in a dark alley or some shit, Clementine is not making it out. Ellie was trained by Fedra in a military school since she was like, what, 13? She knows boxing, judo, BJJ, Muay Thai.
She had a lot of teachers.
Muay Thai, whatever, you know what I'm saying. Bruh. Then she had Joel and Tommy teaching her how to fight dirty, survive things like...
To be fair, though, Ellie was born after the outbreak, their zombie outbreak started. Clementine was born during the outbreak. So she like kind of adapted to it. Ellie was like raised for it. And I feel like that's not unfair, but it's two different sides. You feel me? I feel like it's two different sides. Cause yeah, she had all this training growing up because Ellie was like 20 years, I think like 10, 20 years after the outbreak started when she was even born.
Ambushes, craft traps. By the second game, she's built like an anime character mid-arc. Just look at her back. I'm low-key jealous. She constantly dodges attacks, throws shit. She swims through more shit. She crafts bombs mid-combat. This girl doesn't fight to survive. She survives so she can fight. Now, don't get it twisted. Clem is not weak. She's resourceful. She survived insane situations with no formal training. She learned everything on her own, save for, you know, Lee, Jane, etc., you know, teaching her some important things. But when it comes to raw hands, she's losing. Like, don't even get me started on the shit Ellie be doing with weapons, bro. Ellie takes combat easily. Now, survival, that's where it gets tricky.
Nah, this is the controversial
Ellie was trained to survive. Clem was forced to. No Fedra, no training camp, no Joel. She was alone at 8 years old, lost her parents, watched Lee die, survived the woods, bad weather, walkers, bandits, starvation, you name it, and still found a way to raise AJ into a functioning human while also raising herself. Clem didn't.
I'm not gonna lie, it might sound crazy biased, but I think the fact that she had to raise a baby at like 8 years old by herself with no training, like Like, it would have been different if Ellie had to raise a baby, because they didn't already had a whole systems. She had to do this by herself.
Have the tools. She became the tool. She's not flashy, she's not a martial artist, but she's clever, and that's all that matters. If we dropped the both of them in the wild with no weapons, no food, and no backup, Ellie might fight her way out. Clem would think her way out. Both make it, but Clem's path would hurt more and hit much harder. So for this category, combat goes to Ellie, survival goes to Clem.
Fair.
We're splitting
That's
the
fair.
point.
Story and character
This
arc.
one's important because it's not just about trauma, you know? Like, it's about how they change. And both of these girls, yeah, they've been through hell. Let's start with Clem. She starts off as a quiet kid hiding in a treehouse, you know? But by the time she's 16, she's already raised AJ, been through everything from season 1 to the final season, and ended off leading a group after saving everyone, getting bit, and almost dying. And the best part about all of that, it never feels forced. Clem grows slowly, naturally. And you know, as I'm recording this, I feel as though I disrespected my girl Clem. You know, I kind of summarized it and said everything from season 1 to the final season. We can name things. Season 1, Lee became her father figure. She ended up having to be the one to shoot him. Based on her choices, of course.
I remember that.
Season 2, having to carry all of those grown-ass men and women to help escape the grasp of Carver after meeting Kenny again, just to lose Kenny in the end no matter what you do. Season 3, she either loses Kenny or she's by herself. Then she proceeds to lose AJ, go through all the problems with the new frontier, and then in the final season, like I said, she goes to Erickson's boarding school, meets a whole bunch of people around her age, you know what I'm saying, but ultimately she gets bit, has to reunite with Lily, who's a piece of shit, fuck that bitch, and she still is standing. It never feels forced. By the way, I still summarized everything. We all know she went through way more than what I just said. And because you make the choices, it feels earned. She doesn't just adapt, she evolves. She becomes your version of Clementine. That's not just good writing, that's personal. Now, let's talk Ellie. And let's be fair,
speaking
Left Behind is one of the best pieces of DLC ever made. Ellie and Riley's story, beautiful, heartbreaking, and still hella underrated. That was the first time we saw Ellie's walls come down. We got to see her be a kid, even if it was only for like a second. Then Joel comes along and their bond becomes the core of The Last of Us. Part 1 Ellie, she's like this witty, sharp, fierce, loyal kind of teenage-esque. And then sadly, when Joel dies in part 2, it makes sense that she breaks as a character. But the
I feel like I don't know what's crazier, having to shoot somebody you view as your father, or watching somebody you view as your father get his head smashed in, knowing you can't do nothing. But I feel like Ellie didn't change. Like, she became more determined, but she didn't change much after this. It just made her goals more clear.
problem, she never comes back from that, at least with what we can see and play. She doesn't grow past her pain, she drowns in it. She pushes everyone away, loses everything, and by the end, she's alone. And you're just stuck watching her suffer. No choices, no say, just pain for the sake of pain. Meanwhile, Clem, she gets her closure. She fights, she cries, she heals, and she lives. That final moment with AJ in the barn, that's peace, that's legacy, that's growth. So who had the better story? Who had the arc that, felt complete? That stayed true to their character without like dragging them through the mud just to make you feel bad? That point goes to Clementine with zero hesitation.
2-1. Category 3, emotional impact and player connection.
Now, this is where the line between what we call a good character and personal experience really starts to show. Let's talk Clementine first. Season 1 alone gave people trust issues. Watching her lose Lee, that wasn't just a cutscene. That was you choosing whether or not to shoot the only person who ever protected her. That pain doesn't hit because of the writing alone. It hits because you were part of it. Then later, Kenny, AJ, Jane, even Lewis or Violet, all of that depends on your choices. Clem's relationships feel like real bonds. You fight to keep people alive, you teach AJ right from wrong, you literally shape the emotional arc. And when things go wrong, you have nobody to blame but yourself. That's impact. So my girl Ellie, Ellie's emotional story hurts. Joe's death wasn't just a loss, it was like a reset button. You want her to heal, you want her to stop, but she doesn't. And the worst part, you can't do anything about it. You watch her fall apart. You kill people you didn't want to kill. You go so far into the darkness, you forget who you were. And yeah, it is powerful, I'll admit, but it's also exhausting. By the end, you don't feel connected. You feel like helpless, especially if you're like me and you wanted Ellie to kill all them niggas, including Abby bitch ass. But
Speaking on this, bro, this game would have been a 10 out of 10 if they wanted to cut Abby's backstory shorter, and two, she actually killed her when she had the chance. She should have never took the high route. She should have killed her in that water.
you know, we get the message. Revenge isn't worth it and blah, blah, blah.
I feel like that's a bad message.
Clem
I
lets you
don't know.
build something, and Ellie makes you watch it burn. One gives you closure, the other gives you virtual trauma. And look, both hurt, but only one stays with you because you chose it. That point goes to Clem. No debate.
3-1. Writing quality and dialogue.
Ellie's writing, especially in part 1 and Left Behind, moi, chef's kiss. She's sarcastic, smart, emotional, and it all sounds real. Her conversations with Joel, iconic and funny as hell. Her monologue.
Now he's speaking though, like the way they built up the relationship between these two just to take away him. I feel like it was better than the one they did for Lee and Clementine. I feel like it wasn't forced with Lee and Clementine, but it was like kind of gradually building up to that point where you can feel like Lee was gonna die. Either Lee was gonna die or Clementine was gonna die.
Dialogues in part 2, perfect.
Like the way Joel
Even when
died,
the plot's
I
dragging
feel like it
you
was
through hell,
random.
the dialogue itself never loses quality. You feel what she's saying. She cracks jokes, flips the mood, and then shatters your soul like 5 minutes later. Now Clementine, she's consistent, but let's be honest, the writing doesn't always hit as hard. Sometimes her dialogue is tied to what you chose 5 minutes ago, and it ultimately makes the game a little bit awkward. Not because of her character, but because the choice-based dialogue can't always feel seamless. You've got so many branches, so many versions of her personality, it's hard to hit that same, polished cinematic level every time. She still delivers, no doubt, but Ellie's lines are tighter, they're cleaner, and more cinematic by design. If this was about raw emotion, Clem's got that. But if we're talking pure writing, the structure, the pacing, how it flows naturally from scene to scene, yeah, Team Ellie's in their bag. This one's gonna sting a little for Team Clem. But we gotta give credit where it's due. So as much as it hurts me to say it, this point goes to Ellie. She earned it.
3-2. Category 5.
This
Morale
one,
complex.
I'm not gonna lie, is rough. I quite literally sat in my room looking at this script, debating who I should give this point to. Because both Ellie and Clem are complex in their own ways, but we gotta talk about what kind of complexity we're dealing with. Ellie is what I like to call a character defined by contradiction. From the very beginning, Ellie's world is full of lies and pain. Joel kills an entire hospital to save her and then lies to her face. And Ellie, from the jump, she knows something is off, but she chooses to believe him, or at least live with the lie. That's part 1. Then in part 2, everything finally breaks her. Joel lied to her from the jump. She ends up finding out the truth herself, asking Joel why, and Joel explains why he just couldn't do it. After that, once Ellie promises Joel, as much as I hate you, I want to try, Joel dies. Ellie spirals. She becomes obsessed with revenge. And not just the normal, I gotta get my get back revenge. I'm talking, I'll destroy everything I love just to make you suffer revenge. She kills multiple people, abandons family, and when she finally catches Abby, she lets her go. After all that death, after losing Dina, after losing her fingers, her peace, she spares her.
That's the point I didn't like. Like, she took your First off, she killed your father figure, even though she was just getting revenge. Then she took your fingers off, and you gave mercy? Mercy? Oh.
That right there, that's contradiction. That pull between rage and mercy, that's what makes Ellie morally complex. Not just the wrongs she commits, but how she lives with them. And honestly, I love that so much. Now with Clem, she's someone I like to call grounded, but not necessarily simple. Clem's world is hella brutal too, and she has to make impossible calls. She kills friends, she chooses who AJ should grow up to be, but her actions usually lean toward protection of some sort. Her heart is always aimed at keeping someone safe, even if it means getting blood on her hands. She's also shaped by you, the player, which adds complexity, honestly, but it also kind of softens it. You get to define her morals. With Ellie, the game defines them for you and then dares you to sit through the whole fallout. Clem maintains her humanity, Ellie loses hers, and then realizes it was the only thing she had left. One of them ends her story whole, and the other ends it completely shattered because of her own choices. So as much as it hurts my biased little heart to say this, the point for moral complexity goes to Ellie. That's literally what her entire story is built on.
3-3 is tied. Category 6. Replayability and player agency.
This is Clem's home turf. Like, we're talking sweep. Clementine's entire story for 4 full seasons is built on you. You decide how she talks.
Yeah, it being a player choice game versus
you decide.
It being a player choice game versus a straight story through play. I think the clear, obvious answer is probably gonna be, if we talk about how replayable it is, it's gonna be the story mode game.
She kills.
I mean, player choice game every time.
Dozens of different versions of Clementine walking around in people's memories. My Clem might be patient, forgiving, loyal. Yours might be the strategic, cold, ruthless type, and all of them are valid because we shaped her. The bond with AJ, that's not just story, that's parenting, that's responsibility. You're not just watching Clem grow, you're raising her, teaching her, and in the final season, watching her pass those lessons down, it's personal. So when someone dies, it hurts harder because it was your Clem that let it happen. Now for Ellie, let's be real. Her story is phenomenal, but it's also locked in. It's linear. There's no choice. No matter how you feel, you're going where the devs want you to go. And look, that's not a bad thing. Not every game needs branching paths, but in a category about player control, Clem's got this one in a headlock.
With ease.
Listen, this one's emotional because both Ellie and Clem have had to love people in a world built to destroy connection. But let's talk Clementine. Lee, AJ, Kenny, Carly, Luke, Lewis, Violet. I can go on and on. These aren't just background characters. These are pillars. Lee literally becomes her dad in a matter of days. Kenny is her broken, angry uncle figure who'd burn the world for her. And AJ? That's her son, her legacy. These relationships evolve. They change based on what you say, who you save, and what you believe. And they last. They're built on trust, not just screen time. As for Ellie, her relationship with Joel is one of the best ever written. Period.
Facts.
But it's also short-lived, for lack of a better term. And after that, she pushes people away. Tommy, gone. He's confused, wants Ellie to kill Abby, but ultimately he doesn't even know what happened. Jesse, dead. No extra reason, just dead. And Dina, gone, because she wanted to leave. By the end of Ellie's story, all that's left is silence. And yeah, I know that's the point. She loses everything because she can't let go. But when we're talking relationships, that's kind of the problem. She has them, but she cannot keep them. Clem builds bonds, Ellie breaks them. So who had the stronger connections? Who felt like the glue in every room they walked into? Whose relationships actually made it to the end? That point goes to Clementine.
That's with ease, though. That's an easy one. Category 8. World interaction and gameplay immersion.
Okay, look, I know this isn't technically about the characters themselves, but let's just take a second to appreciate the difference in how these two operate in game. Because gameplay wise, Ellie is in a different universe. I mean, she's dodging punches, crafting bombs on the fly, jumping between rooftops, swimming under shit, looting drawers, stealth killing grown ass men with scissors. Or whatever the hell she'd be using. It's cinematic and stressful. The game itself is practically open world, and not to mention its beautiful graphics and cutscenes. You feel like you're Ellie because of the gameplay itself. Now Clem, she's doing her own thing. Click around, talk to AJ, interact with somebody.
Yeah, the immersion way different. Like you could literally craft
it's a narrative
shit.
game, and that's fine. But this isn't her lane. She's not supposed to suplex anyone. Still, if we're being fair, this category is obviously leaning a little sideways. It's not really a character versus character anymore. It's a game design versus game design kind of thing. But if we're counting it, where Ellie takes the point, clean. But we're gonna slap a little asterisk on it. Asterisk? You know what I'm talking about. Bruh. Because when you let Naughty Dog give someone Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, stealth mechanics, and battle physics, hell yeah, the immersion's gonna be different. We're comparing a cinematic AAA title to Telltale's point and click with dialogue bubbles. Different games, different worlds, different beasts.
5-4. Category 9. Legacy and Endgame.
Now this right here, this is the soul of a character. Not just how they survive, but what they leave behind. And Clementine, she finished her story. She didn't die tragically. She didn't fade into some angsty sunset. She made it. A kid with no one left became the reason someone else made it out alive. She became a protector, a leader, a mother. And even though her legs fucked up, I'm laughing at myself right now.
That shit gone.
And even though her leg is fucked up, and even though her leg is messed up, and she's still scarred inside and out, she finally rests. Her story ends in peace. You raise AJ, you pass on your values, and when he's in that barn, ready to finish Clem, just like Clem did to Lee, that's a legacy moment. That's closure. Ellie, man. Man, Ellie's ending hurts. And
The ending hurt, but when I was watching that Clementine one, bro, I was watching Berlizzi play it, and AJ grabbed that X. I thought he was going straight to the head. I was like, no, bro. I ain't really cry over stuff like that, but like that almost got me. But that was an emotional scene.
not in a good way. You know, after all the violence, all the loss, all the obsession, she lets Abby go. She chooses mercy, but by then, it's already too late. She comes home to nothing. No Joel, no Dina, no kid. And when she picks up that guitar and can't even play it anymore, that's not peace, that's emptiness. Ellie's story ends on a statement, not a resolution. And yeah, it's hella poetic, but it leaves you with a scar and not a memory. All Ellie's left with is PTSD and emptiness. No Tommy either, dang. So, who had the stronger legacy? Who left behind something worth continuing? Clem's name means
easy.
hope. Ellie's means regret. And this isn't shade at all. It's just what the story gave us. That final point goes to Clementine. With love,
6-4.
respect.
Bonus category.
Alright, so this last category, it's not a part of the scoreboard, you know what I'm saying? We're done with the points, but I figured we should talk about what's next or what could have been. Let's start with Ellie. She walked off with 8 fingers. Oh, I can't stand that. I know Clem loses her fingers too, but goodness, man, Ellie's just rubs me the wrong way. She walks off with 8 fingers, no serotonin, but there's still this eerie piece to it, you know? She's broken, yeah, but she's not finished. And with The Last of Us Part 3 being a mystery, just like my mental state, her story is still breathing. Whether it's for
I don't know if they was going to do a part 3, how would they do it though? Like what angle would they play at? She lost everything in part 2. I guess she can like decide I'm gonna get revenge. I don't know. I feel like that's a whole nother story you gotta rewrite. I don't know. Cause it feels like Ellie's character is just done now. You know, anything past this is probably just stretching it, where it does to a point where it doesn't need to be stretched.
redemption, more trauma, or just her finally getting a hug, Ellie's still got room to go. She might come back stronger, or she might come back weaker. It could probably be both. We don't know. But for Clem, she had the cleanest ending in gaming history, at least to me, because you know I'm biased. That iconic first breath of fresh air at the end of the game, of a true break, peaceful, earned, done. But apparently, some people at Skybound said, what if we ruin that with one of the worst comic storylines imaginable? Gosh. This comic, this graphic novel of shit, this JPEG of disrespect. Whoever
my
wrote that
God.
mess has never played the game. I don't know what dimension they pulled that plot from, but it wasn't Telltale's. It's like they handed it to a Tumblr user who only watched a Clem TikTok compilation and said, go wild.
Yeah, boy.
I don't acknowledge that shit. You shouldn't either. But to summarize, they gave her a peg leg, dropped her into Vermont for no reason, had her abandon AJ off screen, and tossed her
What?
into some knockoff survival drama with an Amish boy named Amos and a bunch of treehouse kids. It reads like someone told ChatGPT to write
What?
Clementine, but quirky indie version, with no memory of who she even is. They nerfed her personality so hard she started talking like a side character from 13 Reasons Why. The writing feels like it was based on a fan-made Pinterest board.
How did this get cleared? This not even like zombie accurate. This a whole new story. This can't be the same. I think personally, they should make another game, a season 5. In season 5, it focuses on the switch from Clementine to AJ. Then we see AJ grow a little bit older, and then he becomes the man Clementine was raising him to be. I think that's I think that's perfect. If he was going to keep going,
Clementine aesthetic, cloud emoji, heartbroken emoji. And don't even get me started on the pacing, bro. Whole chunks of story go by without real stakes. Walkers barely exist, and you can feel the writers trying to force growth that was already earned in the games. This wasn't a continuation, it was just a reboot in disguise, and it was honestly really bad. So while Ellie still has gas in the tank, Clem's story already crossed the finish line, at least to me. Like I said, we're not acknowledging them shit-ass comics. And respectfully, that's where it should have stayed, at the end of the game. The comics were so disrespectful, unearned, and damn near delusional. Don't bring that shit into canon. Leave her in peace. She earned that. Anyway, no bonus point here. Just a hypothetical, because the real scoreboard already spoke.
6-4. Recap plus outro.
Alright, let's run the final score back one last time. For category 1, combat and survival. Ellie took combat, Clementine took survival. I gave them each 1 point for that. After that, Ellie proceeded to take writing, moral complexity, and gameplay immersion, giving her 4 points. Clem, not only did she take survival, she also took story and character arc, emotional impact, player agency, and relationships, as well as legacy, giving her 6 points in total. And look, I get it. They're both incredible characters. Both broke us in different ways. Both changed the way we experience story-driven games. But if you were born in 06 like me, if you were, believe it or not, 5, almost 6 years old when season 1 of the Walking Dead game dropped in 2012, and you watched your older brother play it before playing it yourself, and from there, you played every single episode and season as they released. Then by the time that final season came out in 2018, you were barely 12, and as the years went on, you replayed it over and over, and that game hit different every single time. That is what I call a character bond. That is why Clementine is my GOAT. I didn't just play it, I relived it, and then I played it again and again and again. To this day, I replay the game every now and then. I watched my favorite YouTubers lose their minds, make their own choice.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna stamp it, bro. The Berlin, this might be glazed, I'm not gonna lie. The Berlin/Berleezy playthrough of the entire Walking Dead series, probably one of the best series on YouTube out of all gaming history. I'm not gonna lie. It might be crazy to say that, but that might have been one of the best gaming playthrough series I ever watched, I ever seen, ever.
Choices, their own paths, and raise Clem like she was their daughter. I watched certain YouTubers craft theories and every possible ending and still clickbait to this day. And every time the videos hit, not to glaze at all. I played The Last of Us the same way, because you know it came out in 2013 and then part 2 in 2020. I respect it heavy, but it didn't stick the way Clem did, because The Last of Us told me a story. The Walking Dead let me live one. So yeah, maybe I'm biased, you know? But when a game grows up with you, when a character feels like a reflection of who you were and who you became, that's not just bias, that's impact. Drop your final score in the comments, Team Ellie or Team Clem, and let me know who you felt more. Let me know if I missed anything. I decided not to fully flesh out each and every one of Clementine and Ellie's accolades and feats and stuff like that, because you know this video would be unnecessarily long. But if you guys want a video like that, let me know. Bye.
So I think I'm Team Clementine, right? But I think because the way the games are made are two different things, the ways that they're looking for, right? I think that the timing, like Clementine, she had to adapt to it because she was born into that zombie outbreak. Ellie, she was like 20 years after the outbreak. I don't remember the exact time, but it was like 10 plus years after the outbreak. So they had the system like locked in. They had governments, agencies, rebellions, they had militaries. So that's why I feel like her character isn't on the same level as Clementine's for like reasons like that. Cause she didn't have that growth of having to like experience survival. Like she killed zombies and did all that, but wasn't on the same level. It was in controlled environments, you know. And the fact she is immune, so she can put herself out there more there's less of a risk putting herself out there. But yeah, that was a good video, man. Stay tuned for the next playthrough series I got coming up. It's might be a game y'all heard before. It's called Days Gone. It's coming soon. I love y'all boys.
Why you standing all by yourself? Those shoes are made for dancing with someone else. Why don't we move on?